Welcome back to Essential Racing Strategies. Get those pencils out. It's time to sharpen your skills. The ultimate goal of Essential Racing Strategies is a video series dedicated to helping other drivers get better, improve in Gran Turismo Sport mode, overall becoming better racers, as you can see written here. But in this Sharpen Your Skills edition, we are discussing a three-part series on brake balance dedicated to giving you the tools to be able to effectively adjust your brake balance to exactly what you need in any given situation. No guessing required. That's right, I believe the use of brake balance is a choice you can make based off what you're experiencing in real time while driving a particular car on a particular track, not being pigeonholed into doing the same thing or just what someone else you saw is doing. Right now we are on part 3 of this 3-part Sharpen Your Skills series. We have dealt with tire saving and control as far as brake balance is concerned. And now we're looking at brake balance for shaving those tenths off of your qualifying times and your race pace. Now I want to say at the outset that the principles we will be covering today do not matter at all unless you are handling the car in a certain way. What do I mean? Well, in many cases, if you are trying to use brake balance to be faster, regardless if you're putting it to the front or to the rear, your action might be nullified completely simply because you aren't doing this one thing or possibly two things. One of those things is necessarily in one case, and the other is necessary in all cases. What are those two? Well, stay tuned, and we'll cover those as this episode unfolds. Now, how can we use brake balance to be faster? First off, brake balance to the rear helps the car rotate more while trail braking into a corner. So do you remember that discussion of moving the brake balance to the front to gain more control of the car for the previous episode? Well, that quote-unquote lack of control when the rear of the car is sliding out under braking can be harnessed to deliberately make the rear of the car step out a moderate amount so that you hasten the rotation of the car. And if the car rotates faster when approaching an apex, you know what that means? Yes, you can get on the throttle sooner and not go too wide on exit. This is especially true the longer the corner is. As you go from braking in a straight line to then turning towards an apex, you trail brake. That is, you trail off the brake, decreasing brake pressure as you turn. And as you're doing that, the rear of the car steps out slightly. Having the right amount of brake pressure keeps the rear of the car in the sweet spot of stepping out slightly without inducing a full-on spin. So this brings us to actually the first thing that must be done as a driver if you're trying to use brake balance to increase your speed, to shave tenths off. In long corners where deceleration is taking place almost all the way to the apex, if you aren't trail braking or you begin to let off the brakes too soon, then you aren't going to benefit from the brake balance being to the rear at all. And that makes sense, right? I mean, let's be serious for a moment, but kind of silly. Brake balance only affects the car when the brakes are being applied. So if you aren't braking, then it doesn't matter. So if you are spending too much time just letting the car coast through corners, you are losing time because the car isn't actually rotating as much as it could be. This admittedly might feel faster, but it's not. Now, there will be another Essential Racing Strategies episode specifically on corner entrance, and it will cover this more. But if you are currently unaware of this slowing factor that could be affecting you, then let that seed be planted in your mind right now. So this is how we use brake balance in a long turn with large deceleration zones especially. Basically anything 90 degrees or beyond, brake balance to the rear where more trail braking is needed, it's going to help you in a great way. But what about very tight, sharp, short turns? Can brake balance be used in those situations to make you faster? The answer again is yes. Brake balance to the front gives you extra stopping power, enabling you to begin braking later. Red Bull Ring is a prime example of this, where especially in the first few corners, there really isn't an opportunity to trail brake. So being able to get on the brakes later gives you a tremendous advantage. Notice on this hairpin right here, for example, how little time is used with the car actually turning. Same here with this turn at Le Mans with these Group C cars. These types of corners represent zones of braking that are in a straight line coming from very high speeds. Trail braking really isn't being utilized, so brake balance to the rear isn't actually that helpful. Brake balance to the front, however, makes a huge difference when braking in a straight line. All the weight of the car shifts to the front, and if the tires with the most weight on them have the most braking power, well, you can see that this is a match that makes you a weapon going into corners. But I said earlier that there is another way in which the benefits of brake balance are rendered useless. Yes, whether you send the brake balance to the front tires or the rear, if you are missing this one key element, shifting the brake balance will be of no benefit to you. So how is this possible? If you are trying to be faster on the track, bringing your overall lap times down, shaving tenths off of each corner, brake balance will be ineffective for you, one way or the other, if you do not push the car to the absolute limit of its grip. Yes, what I'm saying is that you can put the brake balance all the way to the front or all the way to the back, and it won't matter if you aren't driving to the limit of the car's capabilities. So while this discussion is great, in order to get the most out of brake balance usage, you must be on the edge, because on the edge is fastest. You must be flirting with the limitations of the car to get the most out of the brake balance in either direction, front or back. Now, after looking at all three of these videos, someone might want to try and stump me and bring up a scenario like this. What if a certain race I'm in has a combination where you are having trouble saving tires and you really need to be? You are having trouble controlling the car under braking and struggling to maintain good race pace. What kind of question is that? Actually, no, that is a very good question, because it's a very real scenario. It's a scenario that you might find in league races with interesting car and track combos. I wanted to bring this scenario up, actually, even though it's a little unlikely, because it has happened. It's happened to me, believe it or not. So if you're in a situation like this, I believe you have two primary options. Option number one, you prioritize properly in this specific order: control first, tire saving second, and then speed. Why this order? Well, if you are losing control of the car, then you are losing time, which actually is causing your tires to wear faster because you are causing them to slip and slide. And so it's costing you overall speed, overall track time. The lack of control affects the other two more than the others affect the control. So let's say that you are losing the car under braking, but you need to save the front tires a little. Then perhaps brake balance to the front, -1 or 2 would be appropriate. And then there's option 2. Option 2 could be this: you modulate the brake balance throughout each lap. So when you get to the corner that makes you want to spin, send that brake balance to the front to add stability. Then look for a happy medium through the rest of the track for tire saving purposes and speed. You can do both at the same time. They are not necessarily mutually exclusive. Turn 1 at Suzuka, along with a whole track, once again, is a great example of this. Because if that turn 1 is giving you trouble, but not really the rest of the track, then perhaps it is wise to prioritize saving tires and speed for the rest of the track and prioritize control for that one corner. The downhill at Bathurst is also a great example of modifying brake balance from the front to the rear throughout the lap. Extra rotation is great for much of that circuit, but the downhill, as we mentioned before, can be very hard to control under braking. So moving the brake balance towards the front for that downhill and then towards the back for the rest of the lap is an excellent way to mitigate oversteer under braking on the descent. Of course, this takes a bit of time to get used to. No, I'm not disagreeing with that. And it can be exhausting to do so much lap after lap and defend and try to pass. So this option 2 is likely for those drivers who are more on the experienced side. But we might ask, how would I advise racers to use brake balance? Let's tie all of these 3 episodes together with a bow and look at our key points to drive home. For newer drivers, I would advise prioritizing control over speed. Pushing the car to the limit of its capabilities really isn't your realm yet as a newer driver. So set the car up in a way that you can control it and put up repeatable laps that are comfortable over and over and over again. So keeping brake balance either neutral or towards the front is likely best. For more seasoned drivers, I would prioritize speed over control. You will need to harness the looseness that brake balance towards the rear provides to get that extra rotation. In fact, this could be something that is actually holding you back right now from reaching the next level. Then, just as a reminder, prioritize tire saving when, by doing so, you can avoid a whole pit stop or avoid reaching that level of wear that will slow you down enough and maybe even cause spins. If tire saving then, in other words, if it's a difference between pitting fewer times or perhaps not at all in a race, then definitely prioritize tire saving. If tire saving will prevent you from getting to that deteriorated level that will slow you down immensely or maybe even cause you to wreck, then that's another scenario where you may want to sacrifice some tenths, some speed, and use brake balance to save those tires. Now, it should be noted that there is more that one can do while driving a race car to save tires than simply moving brake balance toward the front or the rear, but that's also going to be covered in a different episode. Ultimately, the last key point is you choose. Yes, you are the master of your brake balance destiny. So on a practical note, if you're finding while practicing on a track that you need more rotation under braking, send it to the rear. If you are finding the car is hard to control under braking, but still needs some added rotation, then maybe just choose +2 or +1 brake balance to the rear. If you are really struggling to maintain control of the car under braking while practicing a track, then send that brake balance to the front and reap the benefits. Never be at a disadvantage again because you are unsure of what to do with this important feature that the game offers us. Want more videos like this one? Consider my Essential Racing Strategies video series. It is a course with an introduction along with 9 episodes that deal specifically with racecraft, how to progress through GT7's DR ranking system all the way from E to A+. This is a free video series available on a playlist on my channel. Being fast is one thing, but being able to race well with others and gain more positive results than negative takes a certain skill set. I would say a whole other skill set than driving by yourself. You can check that series out right here on the ending screen or check the link out in the description. And that's going to do it for this mini series of sorts on brake balance. The next time we get together, it'll be on a new topic of racing to help us achieve the next level in our racing journey. Until then, we'll see you next time, friends.